Hello, I'm Dr. Jim Sendelbach, and I'm a candidate for Public Service Commissioner. And I'm going to talk to you in this video about the free market and competition and how important that is when we're talking about utilities. So I'm going to start with a simple example, and then we're going to relate that to how the utility companies take advantage of territorial restrictions. So let me show you here. Let's say that there is a vendor at the farmer's market who sells peaches for $5. And you say, well, that's kind of high, but that's the only vendor, and by territorial restriction, there can't be anybody else. So if you want peaches, you're going to pay the $5. Now, there are other vendors who sell them for a lot less, but they can't encroach on that territory. So one day, in a fit of dazzling brilliance, the Peach Price Control Commission says, you know what, we need some competition here. So competition now enters in, and watch what happens. We get number one vendor, and number one vendor is going to sell his peaches for $1.25. Number two vendor is now going to sell them for $1.50, and number three is going to sell them for $1.60, because we have removed the territorial restrictions. Now you can buy peaches from any one of these vendors. Well, now you still have the $5 vendor. You can still pay $5 for the peaches if you want. But what would happen in a free market in a competitive environment? Well, $5 vendor isn't going to have any business. You know that. That's really obvious. The business is going to go down here. Unless, of course, $1.25 vendor is, these peaches aren't so good. Well, anyway, there's choice. There's competition. The competition will bring this down, and you know that. Now, this is the same thing that happens with the utilities. They are all structured by territory. And that goes back to rules that were set up in 1974. And it's time for those to change, because you can't get competition. The territories are completely restricted, and you can't cross territories. So if I wanted a particular power company to supply me, but I'm not in their territory, I can't get it. We have free market and competition in a lot of areas. We don't have it in utilities. And so one of my commitments in running for this election, for running for this office, is to help remove these territorial restrictions so that we have more choice about our utility. Now, I'm going to be back in a moment, and I'll give you a little bit more information on why this is so important to us as ratepayers and as consumers. So stay tuned for part 2.